Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is a little weird, but since this whole video is a review of the CCM Super Tacks Total Custom Helmet, Super Tacks X, which is this thing right here, I figured I would do this part with the helmet on, since all of this is about this helmet and my usage of it. But I want to be upfront about some stuff first, and clear about things before we go into this video. So this helmet was supplied to me by CCM. I got scanned for it and fit for it, which you'll see some footage from that at Just Hockey. That would happen in 2022, around August. It is now 2024. I've also seen some issues with the non-total custom helmet, which I have a friend who did some 3D printing work as his career, and he talked about some of the concerns from this one. So I want to kind of cover those and talk about my experiences with this and how it is. Now, another thing I want to call out, and this is about the whole VTech study thing. I can't go into details about the VTech study, especially for this helmet, because they never did a test on this helmet. In order for them to do a test on this helmet, CCM would have to scan the actual head form, would have to build one out and put it on there, and that has never happened. And there is always stuff online about VTech. I'm not getting into that whatsoever. There's stuff on like Mod Squad of people talking about it and discussing it, and I'm not going to go into there and dive into there and talk about what is a more protective helmet or what isn't a more protective helmet. I will mention some things that I have noticed when wearing this. So sometimes people will hit you in the head, you get an elbow, whatever. I'll talk about my experience with that a little bit. Besides that, I'm not going to say this is more protective than another helmet is. I'm also not a brain specialist. I'm not also an engineer, so I can't talk about how the forces are going to be dissipated, and I also can't talk about how that's going to affect your brain. So I'm not going into that whatsoever. So sorry about this long intro, but I wanted to make this very clear and kind of get that out of the way to begin with, and to be very upfront about things, and then hopefully the rest of the video will be helpful, and maybe you'll want to purchase one of these at the end of it. Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the CCM, as you can see right here, Super Tacks X Total Custom. So this is basically the helmet that a ton of pros in the NHL have been wearing. I'm sure in other leagues as well, where your head is basically scanned and then you get a 3D printed mold of this NestTech and put into a helmet so it fits you like basically a glove. And as a comparison, we have the Super Tacks X non-total custom, as you can see. So first of all, huge thanks to CCM for sending me this helmet. I went to Just Hockey, had myself scanned at Just Hockey, and then CCM supplied the helmet to me free of charge. I didn't have to pay for it, so I want to be very upfront about that. So what we're going to show off here first is what the scanning process of this helmet looks like. So when I went to Just Hockey and what they had to do for the scanning, and then what the different options are for the customization on it, like colors, accessories, stuff like this specifically, and just like little details there. And then we are going to jump into an unboxing to show what comes with this helmet. Then we are going to do a comparison of the Super Tacks X retail helmet, which is this one, and you can see with the liner in there, and compare it to the Super Tacks X Total Custom with the very unique liner there. And we're going to go look really close at here, kind of peel some things back and see what this looks like. We'll talk about comfort and we'll talk about fit and everything like that down there as well. If this video was helpful and you're happy it came out and you want to see more of it, like if you want to see me review the goalie one, please reach out to CCM on social media and stuff like that. Hopefully I can do more stuff like this in the future and that this video is helpful. So please let CCM know that my content like this, while it might take longer to come out, actually very helpful to people and not just like marketing stuff, but actually helping people make purchasing decisions. Greatly, greatly appreciated on my end. If you want to support the channel and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, check out the link in the description to Just Hockey. Even if you're in Canada or US, they have pretty awesome free shipping stuff to both countries. Check them out in the description. Click that link, make a purchase through them. I get a kickback. Also supports them, also shows them that my content is helpful, and hopefully I can make more content with them going forward and making more reviews like this. Otherwise, check out Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. Everything goes through those links, always comes back into the channel so I can make more content and doing more videos. So unfortunately, when filming this part of the video, Just Hockey had some copyright music going on in the background. They had a radio station playing, so I can't really put this on YouTube, and I'd have to kind of edit this out myself. So I'm going to explain what was kind of going on here. So for the fit process, the fitter asks you what helmet you're currently wearing, what size you're wearing, how it feels, if you have any pressure points. Very similar to the questions you answer when you're doing a custom skate fit. So for me, it's a bit easier because I wear a Super Tacks X helmet already, so I know the shell size, which was a medium. So right away, I just straight up said, yeah, I'm in a medium, fits pretty good. The fitter here, Dave, grabs me the helmet, which is a medium, and says, here, put it on. And as you can see, I just know how to put it on and how to adjust it. And he grabs it, makes some changes on it, marks some things down. Specifically, there are grooves on the side of the helmet, which show you kind of how much you expand or shrink the helmet when you put it on and get it to fit right. So he kind of redid the process again, put it on, confirmed what I already had on there, but he wanted to make sure exactly how many little of those slots it was, because you mark it down in the app once you do the scan and for the whole fit size, so they get an idea of how big the shell is when it sits on you correctly. And then he just did some small fit adjustments and put it on my head to make sure what size felt right to me, and went through just to make sure all the fit was good with me and how I was comfortable with it, and then answered all the questions on the app itself. And then after asking questions about if the fit was comfortable, the fitter then takes photos of that shell size on your head with their demo fits to see how it will look. And so it uploads into the app to go to CCM. The next process is actually scanning your head with this. And you'll notice I actually cut my hair short for this. I have a thing where I go really short hair and then really long hair. And I think it was a good test for custom helmets like this. And that's just what I do all the time. My producer likes long hair, I like short hair. So it's a compromise. When you do the scan, you have to put on this like neoprene-like thing over your head to really kind of flatten down your hair and to kind of get it totally wrapped around your head as close as possible, so the scan works better and it doesn't have kind of hair bunches everywhere, and it gets a real idea of your head shape. Again, the fitter takes pictures of the front, the side, and I think the back as well with this on before they actually do the whole scanning process. The scanning process here is just like a skate scanning process, where the fitter walks around with the app, scans it on the app, and you can see it on the actual app itself, kind of filling out the head form on here. Just the same way you do when you do your feet scans for the custom skate process. It's pretty close to the same thing, and well, it kind of works, and they've been doing it for a while now. The app is kind of cool how it does show kind of a 3D version of you when he's doing this, and it kind of shows the fitter the box of where it should be. And then finally, once it's done, you can actually see a 3D kind of scan mold of your head. And this looks really similar to the plaster cast I did when I did a custom goalie helmet with ProTech Sport back in the day. Next, we look on to the actual custom options of the helmet itself. So here you can select colors, you can select kind of ear loops and your chin colors and your logo colors. And that is exactly what I did here. The thing I selected on here, which I was really happy about, was Montreal Blue, which is a different blue than what is other options out there. It's not like a normal Royal. I think they also had Maple Leafs Blue as well, but Montreal was slightly different, and I wanted to select that one. I do love they have all these custom color options. I kind of wanted to go with a purple one to match kind of my crazy colorful jerseys, but I was more sensible and went with a very nice Montreal Royal Blue. On here, you can choose the logos from the front and the side. So you can kind of do the clear Super Tacks, NestTech kind of looking thing on the front, which you can see on some helmets. Or I just went with the like basically pro stock white option and went with the white ear loops as well, because if you know, you know, for pro stock gear, white ear loops are the best way to go for helmets, and they always look fantastic. I added a little bit of red details on the side there just to give it a little bit of kind of me and have a little bit of color on there. When you actually go into the custom options as well, you end up being able to choose the custom kind of print text on the inside of the helmet. Then once you have all that information in there, it gives you a recap, and you can go through all of this to make sure everything's fine. It shows you the pictures, it kind of shows you the scan, and then all that information will be sent off to CCM as an order, and then the store will end up getting the actual helmet shipped to them. At least that's how this process worked for me. So the box itself of the total custom helmet is honestly just the same as the normal Super Tacks X box, but it has a little sticker right here, and as you can see, Montreal, total custom. And then it also has assembled in Canada up here, which is also slightly different. But as you can see, I have a medium helmet, which is the same shell as my other one. So once you figure out your shell, when you go in to get fit, that's the shell you end up getting. So we'll open this up and go right here. And you have all the details on here as you do on the previous one, which goes over all the NestTech and stuff like that. And then you pull this part out and you can see this bag that comes with it. This bag was one of the giveaways of what basically the Super Tacks Total Custom X was, because you would see this bag with helmets on pro stock sites for like used helmets and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting where you can customize your number and stuff on there, and you get that. And then obviously you get the helmet inside. And this is obviously the important part and the special part, and what makes this kind of stand out from every other helmet on the market. So this helmet also doesn't come with little cage pieces right here. I put it on because I wear a cage. So obviously I have to put them on, I just didn't take them off. So showing off some of the custom options on this helmet, you obviously saw me going through the iPad and selecting the different options that I wanted on here. One is obviously this blue. This is a Montreal blue. So Montreal uses a slightly different royal blue. It's obviously specific. And the helmet I was going to replace was an old royal blue one. So this was a good route there. Obviously I went with the white logos on the side and on the front. And it is kind of interesting how the CCM logo right here is kind of, you can see it's like 3D, it's inlaid, which is kind of an interesting touch. I'm a fan of that. And with the interesting red inserts here, you can buy like accessory packages to change these. I think these pop out. As you can kind of see, they just stick in there. I'm not going to do that, but I went with red just to show you different custom options on here. You can also choose a custom option of the chin strap, which I went with the NestTech look on it. As you can see, it has that design there. Normally, you just pros would obviously have white and everything, but I thought it was a nice look, especially compared to the black version that has the black one on there. And I wanted to kind of just show off. Finally, the other nice little touch is on the inside. You can see HRCA 27, obviously, Hockey Reviews, CA, and 27. Obviously, that is a really cool touch on your helmet and kind of makes sense for pro helmets. These are all custom made, right? So you want the actual pro whose helmet it is to be labeled on there so you know whose it is every time you pick it up and put it on. As you can see, the shell and everything is the same as what is on the Tacks X, just a stock one. You can see obviously there's some customization pieces like the logo right here, which is the white I went with instead of like the funky chrome and honeycomb look. But the shell itself is the same throughout, and we have the same all the way through, right? It's the same idea. It's the same all through. That is what it is. There is no little sticker on the back of this one. As you can see how there is that medium sticker right there. You don't have it back here, but it was on the box itself. And I kind of lined everything up here to make sure that the shell was basically the same, and it was the same. And this is the spot where I think is one of the coolest little pieces on this helmet. And that is that CCM kind of cutout of the NestTech right there, where normally, as you can see the difference, I think that's kind of an interesting tell and a really awesome look on it. The other thing that is really amazing in my opinion is being able to see the NestTech through the actual shell itself. So you can kind of see it through there, but on the custom ones, you can really see it right up against the edges. And this is also how you tell on pro players, because you can see Matthews, I've been posting them on Instagram since like these things have come out. You can see the NestTech peeking through the shell, as you can see, which is a pretty awesome touch, whereas the retail one does have that other foam around it. And then it has the NestTech. This one is right up against there, because when we look on the inside, you can see the massive differences between the NestTech on the custom and the retail one. So we're not going to go over the whole retail one here because we did a full video of this in the past, and so I definitely recommend checking that out and everything. But this does give you an idea of what is in here compared to what is right here. And if you haven't seen that video, check it out up there maybe for this, because that video will give you a good idea of how much, like, I'm not gonna say improvements, but how much more comfortable and like amazing this helmet is compared to this one, which was already my favorite helmet on the market by far. I've had people ask me over and over again of what socks I always recommend, and I've been using Cutshield for a while now, and I've had multiple stuff from them. So Cutshield is a company out of Canada that makes cut resistant socks, and these are their Pro Air 6, which means it's an ANSI level 6 for cut resistance on here. They also make pretty awesome slash guards and wrist guards. You see them in the NHL a lot. Basically look for this gray material under players' gloves and under their elbow pads, and it's probably Cutshield. This version of it has an Evo Shield piece in, so you have slash guard and it's skate cut resistant. This stuff is fantastic and I absolutely love it. I've been using it for a long time. Did a full review of it up there so you can check it out. But I now have a coupon code with Cutshield, so if you want to support the channel, you can check out the link in the description to Cutshield, buy some socks, which I think are honestly one of the better socks on the market. I absolutely love them. They're pretty thin and they are cut resistant and they're not too hot either. And I have no issues with these whatsoever on my custom skates where I need a really thin one. You can see how you can basically see my skin through them, so they are thin on here. And this part doesn't really feel or get that hot compared to some of those Kevlar socks. So I absolutely love this material. So check them out. I always recommend them. Use my coupon code. You get 25% off and it helps support the channel so I can keep making videos and making more content. Now, before we dive into the fit and everything on this, I want to talk about the liner itself and kind of show off what is on this or in this compared to what is on the retail version, because obviously there are huge differences in here. And I think it's kind of important to go over these aspects and kind of take a look at it. Now, obviously this is 3D printed and you saw what happens when your head gets scanned and photos get taken, and then this gets printed out to match your head. Now, I did have some little bit of skepticism, I will say, in that this is actually 3D printing to your head. So the very first thing I did was I looked at these little 3D printed parts in it and wanted to see if they were totally symmetrical, and then just like, oh yeah, these kind of 3D print this out and build it out, but it's not really to your head mold. I'm a skeptic. I always question when companies do kind of crazy things like this to see if it's all just marketing or if it's real. So when you take a look at this, it's 100% real. There is no symmetry through this whatsoever. This is all 3D printed and clearly to match my head shape, and it's not even all the way through. And that is very impressive. And you can see some of it is squished in, obviously because of, well, one, my head kind of pushes back, and I've been fiddling with this a lot in terms of changing the different sizing on it and seeing how kind of the foams line up and everything like that. You can see all through it that there is no symmetry in terms of both of the sides, which is very impressive. For example, right here, there's this one piece right there, and then there's two tiny little pieces, and you look on the other side and they are not there. So very interesting, and kind of proof that this isn't a one-to-one match for symmetry all the way through, and it definitely is 3D printed out to match your head. And to show as a comparison, the retail one is totally symmetrical for obvious reasons, right? They're just matching it to be one side to the other side, and it's not like a scan to your head shape. So all of these are the exact same all the way through on both sides. It's a totally symmetrical design. That totally makes sense because it is a standard kind of foam package and not made for your head. You also have this kind of plastic little piece right here going through it, where on the total custom, you have no plastic piece right there. So you can see that little lip. This is just all 3D printed all throughout, all the way here, and on the back as well, where the other one does have that lip there, and this one is all printed all together. And you can definitely see the difference between the custom one and the retail one in terms of like that entire back of the head piece, where this one is definitely bigger coming out and definitely a lot more fitted to my head shape as compared to what this would be just for a retail piece. You can also, when you squeeze this, definitely feel the difference in terms of like thickness and I want to say density of the 3D printed foam. That's like, I'm putting pressure on it and it's not moving a whole lot, where you put the same pressure here and you can see the difference. Obviously, again, this is custom made to my head, where this one is just a 3D lattice that is done as a generic sizing piece, which is extremely comfortable, but definitely just a whole different foam package and idea behind this one. The other part I find really interesting about this 3D liner and kind of adjustability in terms of lengthwise on the helmet, obviously you flip these up, and we showed in the custom process that I ordered 3 on here. You can still adjust the helmet, it's not locked in place. And on the retail one, it's interesting how stuff is handled. So you can see where this little piece is right here, where the gap between the back and the front kind of is. On the retail one, obviously, you can see it right here. Now this piece you can flop out and it's kind of separate, and you can see D3O in there, which we'll talk about that in a second, but it flops out. But even at 1, it is kind of jammed in, and it's not totally small, because when I expand this, and you'll see right here, when we expand it, you lift up the sides, obviously, and pull it out, it expands to a bigger size like that. And this is locked in place, so it is at the biggest size. Now, again, these are adjustable, and this is a medium. So chances are, if you are going to the side, you'd probably want to go to a large anyways, in terms of shell size. But you can see how like this is adjustable in the sense of it can close and expand, and it's kind of built on obviously a standard platform. This one does go all the way to 1, and this bunches up a tiny bit, but not a ton. As a comparison, if this one goes anywhere really past 2, or even at 2, this piece starts to bunch up with there, because of just how much more of this 3D NestTech kind of liner is on it. And when we take a look here, you can see how even the liner, when you pull it back, is like on a slope, and you can see also how thick this liner is. And CCM's probably not thrilled with me pulling this out to kind of talk about it. Obviously I'm squishing some things, but you can see how thick it is, but it's also on an angle too. So this part sticks out a little further than the top piece, so it kind of slots in to that angled piece right there. But you can see how like sloped that is and how it kind of fits all nicely in place. And this is at its 3 setting, which is what I custom fit this helmet at, and which I was fitted for. And I have worn this helmet at its 2 setting, and I'll show it right now. You can definitely see the difference in the gap right there, where there absolutely is no gap whatsoever compared to the 3, where it was just ever so slightly. But to be totally honest, when you kind of really look at this and kind of peel it back, it definitely feels like this NestTech isn't totally thrilled with being this tight into each other, because you can see some overlap. And it definitely feels like the 3 is where it should be, and that is the one I was fit at, so it makes total sense in that regards. Now, I put it down to a 2. I love things really, really snug. It's how I wear all my equipment. That's how I wear all my helmets. I don't want anything kind of moving around. So I put this down at a 2 just to see how it fit. And honestly, the difference between a 2 and a 3 here isn't massive for me. And again, 3D printed to my head, so it makes sense. So I put it back to a 3 because it's just how I was scanned at, and I might as well just give this foam a little bit of breathing room just so it's not smushed in there. Because again, you could push this in to be a 1, but the foam is obviously not made to be a 1. It's made to be a 3 and fit my head. So there's no point jamming that in there and then this not being totally lined up perfectly. Now, talking more about these foams, obviously the NestTech isn't just one 3D printed thing and then shoved in here. It is made of pieces still. So this back piece is still one, feels like it's its own one piece. Now, this might not be perfect, but I'm going to tell you based on what I could find from pulling it out. This piece right here overlaps the back piece, but is separate. You can kind of see, I'm trying to get this on camera with light, but you can kind of see how it kind of goes in there and is a separate piece. So it kind of overlaps itself. And then this piece is separate from the side pieces, which as you can see right here, open like this, but this is connected to this middle piece right here. So when you try to pull this out here, it is kind of connected in there. So I'm not sure if that's glued or if that's like actually the NestTech stuck together. I'm not going to pull it apart to find out, but it is also connected to a piece of what looks like a plastic on the front, as you can see right here, and this piece to connect these two together. So while these might not be all printed as like one specific piece, they're all connected to each other and fitting kind of together, so you can't really yank these out, obviously. Here is the side 3D printed structure. So you can definitely see how it gets smaller on the ears and thicker towards the side of the head. And I absolutely love looking at this stuff. And I love compressing this stuff and seeing how this lattice structure is made, and look at the back, and that's just absolutely beautiful. And I absolutely love this design. I love that this is a thing. This is so interesting to me, and seeing this and like feeling just how it compresses and feels and everything. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm sorry I'm gushing over this, but this tech is like so nice for comfort and fitting and everything like that. And I absolutely love this, and I love wearing this helmet. So that's why I'm super excited about this. And obviously gone in this is D3O. It's not in there anymore. It's just the NestTech lattice structure and doing the 3D fitting to your head. And I can see people being kind of disappointed about that, but I'll talk about it. I love CCM products for having D3O in it. Their gloves with like the full D3O foam package are amazing. There's some of the best gloves on the market, and that's why I buy a lot of their pro stock gloves, D3O, and why I have these. This glove specifically came with a shot blocker, which I cut the one off here, with this D3O here. Now, I love this material. It's super protective, and they've showed their tests with the hammers and stuff, and it's excellent for shot blocker material, excellent for glove materials and everything. Obviously, it's protective. This is obviously a lot bigger sheet than what is in this, as you can totally see. A lot thicker. This is going to be a lot more protective. I am not personally disappointed that D3O is gone out of here because of how comfortable this helmet is, because of how well the lattice fits, and obviously it's 3D constructed. I don't really care that there's no D3O in there. Now, if they manage in the future to put a 3DO kind of shell, kind of like this, but I would want it even more wrapped on this helmet in the next iteration of custom ones, and then do this 3D lattice structure around it, fine by me, and that's awesome. My favorite retail helmet, that was the most comfortable retail helmet, I'm okay losing that D3O to go full NestTech, because this stuff is so comfortable and so nice in that regards. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is airflow and kind of sweat retention, I guess, or just sweat in general. I have had problems in the past with CCM helmets. This one was the worst offender I had, which was the CCM FL90. As you can see right there. Now, there's something about this helmet that when I wore it, it didn't feel like it played hotter than anything else, but I would always have sweat running down my eyes from here no matter what I did. And I just noticed it. I could end up tasting on my face. I could feel it running down my face. I could kind of feel it getting in my eyes. So I always had to use my jersey to help with sweat, or use a towel or something like that. So this was always an issue with this helmet. Now, when I went to the Tacks X, my sweat issues, I didn't really have any at all, and I've never noticed it with this helmet specifically. Now, obviously, this is a little bit different of a design than what was on the FL90, but some people did have concerns, and I'm sure other people have different experiences, but for mine personally, I didn't really have any issues with any sweat coming on this helmet at all and running down my face. I don't know if it's getting stuck in this lattice structure, which would kind of be gross, but it's not having any issues with running down my face. Now, the thing about this helmet is that it breathes so well. You can just test it by blowing into these holes, and you can put your hand behind it and you can feel that air going right through. And when you're on the ice, obviously, and you're skating, all that cold air is going right into your head and is definitely keeping you cool. This is absolutely a helmet where if I was on a very, very cold ice and cold day, usually in the mornings, my ears would get a little bit cold in this helmet because it breathes so well and that air was kind of blowing in there. That is not exactly the case with this helmet anymore. Now, obviously, you look at this lattice structure and you can see through it a lot, and it's a lot thinner and it's a lot lighter. And then you look at this one and it's a lot more dense with a lot more kind of fully filled in pieces of the material, like right here. And you still have some of that see-through, but it's not nearly see-through as much as what the SuperTax X is. You do that exact same test on this helmet as you do with this one by blowing in the holes, and you get barely any air coming through this one at all. You get a little bit, but not a lot. Now, with that said, this is a 3D custom printed helmet to my head. So I'm gonna take a guess that certain people who have different head shapes are going to have better breathability in here just based on how their head is. If you have less material through here, it's gonna breathe better. So it would be something closer to this, but mine is pretty, I don't know if it's pretty thick compared to other people, but that material doesn't honestly just allow as much air to go through it as the SuperTax X did. But in that regards, the SuperTax X was the best helmet I've ever worn in regards to that and felt absolutely amazing. With that said, I had zero sweat issues with this helmet whatsoever. I also had zero overheating issues with this helmet whatsoever. You can still feel the air coming out back here if you do the blow from the outside to the inside. Obviously, again, not as much as what is on this one, but you can still feel it. But I had zero issues when wearing this helmet. But even though it's a thicker 3D printed liner and everything, and you definitely can't feel it nearly as much, it still feels fine. I had zero issues with sweating or overheating when wearing this helmet, and it's pretty impressive. I also used the SuperTax X next to the Total Custom side by side on the skate. So I did one shift with this, took it off, did one shift with that, took it off. And besides the comfort, like obviously you feel the comfort right away, and obviously you feel the heat right away in terms of warmth, because this thing, the cold air just really goes through this thing like nothing. So you definitely feel a little bit warmer, but it wasn't warm enough to be like an issue, and I wasn't overheating or anything like that. It felt totally normal, and it wasn't the best, which is still this one because of that liner, like I said, but it was fine and it was good and it's not causing me any issues. So one of the things that people have asked me a bunch about this helmet off the get-go is weight and which one weighs more. So when you look at these two helmets and see how much thicker the NestTech is in here and how much more the NestTech is in here, and it ends up being denser as well, you would assume that this helmet would be lighter because it's more airy and it has less, obviously, NestTech than this one was. And I put both of these on a scale I have, and as you can see, the results are the same. They look exactly the same. They're within grams off of each other. Obviously, this is going to be different for everyone. Again, this is a 3D printed liner designed around my head specifically. Obviously, it is going to be a different shape for someone else and will have a different amount of NestTech in there. But interesting to see how this much more NestTech and actually liner is actually lighter than what they did here. Now, obviously you have that D3O in there, which is gonna weigh a bit more, and you do have like some of the plastic in here too, which is probably gonna weigh more than the NestTech does as itself. And when I put both of these on my head, they feel totally fine and like light. They don't feel heavy or anything. But I also wear a cage, so obviously the cage being metal is going to be the heaviest part of the helmet regardless. The weight is totally fine on these and they feel excellent on your head, obviously, and it's extremely well balanced. And you want to support the channel and you need a base layer and a protective kind of supportive base layer that helps protect your growing as well as your hips. Check out the Cortech. This is the Pro 1.0 pant, so this one is not quite as restrictive, and this is kind of tight right here in this X pattern. You might have seen these as Under Armour before, or Bauer for the hockey specific ones. There's also the Core 3.0, which is a lot stiffer, as you can see. Really helps protect my growing and keeping it kind of in place and make sure it doesn't overstretch itself. There's a discount code, and you click the link in the description use that discount code to get a discount off, help support myself, as well as get you some pretty awesome base layer pants that really do help with injury prevention and help stabilize your core while playing. So when I reviewed the Tacks X, obviously this one, I talked about how the fit of this was fantastic in terms of comfort and everything. It just felt absolutely amazing on you with 0 pressure points, and it kind of folded into itself, as you can see, and it felt really good. Now, I still have a bit of pressure points, especially with a cage. You can kind of just feel things on the side, and it isn't the most comfortable thing in the world when you have one of these things. Now, besides that, it was the most comfortable helmet I ever worn, and it was fantastic, but it definitely didn't feel like it was made for me. And the fit on it was obviously a retail fit. It wasn't what you can get when you go custom. And when we went custom with this thing, it was just ridiculous. This thing really does feel like it is designed to go around your head, and it is because it's 3D printed off your head, but it feels so natural, and putting it on feels more comfortable than honestly some toques I've worn in the past, which have been more tight than this one has, where this one just slides on and it feels like it just wraps your head perfectly. This thing is absolutely fantastic in terms of comfort and fit on this, and it's the helmet that moves the least around on my head as well, and it just works really, really, really well for that. I have custom goalie mask, which was this one I had to send in my head mold to, and it was built out to be custom fit on my head. It's very comfortable. It was at a point the most comfortable thing, like helmet I've ever worn. This thing blew it out of the water. It's custom, it's a softer material type thing here, or at least it's 3D printed exactly to my head, so it fits perfect. It's unbelievable to fit on this thing. It is absolutely fantastic. You can see in these close-ups just how close the material is also to my head, and you can see how tight it is to my head, which is obviously the point, but it's showing how much like lack of negative space there is on here, where you definitely get some of that with the Tacks X. You don't get that at all in this helmet, and it's just like wrapped perfectly around your head. So a lot of people ask with the custom helmet if it fits with long hair, even if you go from short to long. So when I had my head scanned, I had really short hair. Now I have longer hair, as you can see, and it gets in the way in helmets, to be honest. But does it fit with the 3D printed helmet? This is at the same size as I do when it was short hair, and it's honestly totally fine, and it's still the absolute most comfortable helmet I've ever worn, and nothing is even close. You can definitely feel that there's obviously more space in here because my hair is taking up some like space inside here, so you can feel that it's not quite as comfortable and like perfect fitting as when it is shorter, because obviously my hair's somewhere now. If I wore a skull cap and probably pull it all the way back, it would probably feel a bit better, but this still feels better than anything else by far, and I've had 0 issues with it. The other thing that's really good is because of how tight that this piece is on, like right here, I never have my hair coming into my face. I do have my hair coming into my face on Tacks X helmets, but the total custom one, which this one is, I've never had that issue whatsoever with the longer hair, so that's an amazing piece right there. And everything is like just totally good for it. It just fits very well, and I have 0 issues. I often have to adjust helmets lengthwise once I go to like longer hair and grow it out, because I cut it really short and then grow it out. This I haven't had to adjust. This has always been at the exact same setting as it has when I scanned it, and it's when I got it, and I didn't have to pull this out at all, and it still fits really well and with no pressure points or anything like that. So it's very, very impressive in that regards. Because this is that 3D liner and it does have give to it, with more hair is going to push more on the liner itself, but again, no issues whatsoever. For cage integration, this is something that's kind of frustrating to me, and I think it should have been integrated into the actual scan itself. Maybe they'll do that in the future with like different cages, because even with this cage, which is the best fitting cage I have found for this, it still easily comes off my chin. As you can see, yes, you could do this and it would hold the helmet down here, but the actual chin cup itself won't be held down there. And this is the tightest one I can get. And this is a large. I can't go medium because it just raises up too high. I have a kind of longer head, or face I should say. So even with this, you can see it does that and it comes off. And I prefer that to be on there more and actually harder on there. Now I know hockey players have that whole cage hang thing. I'm looking for actual proper fit. With that, this I think needs to be a little bit tighter for that. Obviously with pros, they're not wearing cages, so it's not really a thing, but I wish somehow they could integrate the cage with this a little bit better. And then this is another cage. Obviously it's not perfect, but this is kind of the second best fitting one I could find at the time. And this one is even worse. As you can see, it just pops off completely. And that's the thing where obviously this one isn't custom, and this cage probably has to be a bit different. And this is one I had lying around, and again, second best one from what this one was. But it'd be really nice that if you do that custom, that they do a scan, figure out what cage works for your face, and kind of make sure all that works together. Because this right now is super comfortable and it feels like it's in the right spot. But I have found that like if you fall back and smack your head, this comes up and it's obviously not ideal. One of the things I'm a little bit concerned about with this helmet specifically is durability, because you can see some of the folding right here of the NestTech right there, and you can kind of see it back here too. I think this was just because of the way I kind of crushed it and was playing with it, and this isn't totally supported right here. But the actual NestTech itself, I'm a little bit concerned for durability, just because it's a new technology that we really haven't seen out that much. I'm sure CCM has a ton of test data of pro players wearing this, because they did wear it all last year and I think the season before as well. And you can see those helmets used on the marketplace. I haven't picked one of those helmets up, so I can't take a look at it, but I am just a little bit concerned because obviously things break down over usage, like foams and stuff like that. So are these going to basically all collapse and not start bouncing back the way that they do right now if you keep wearing them over and over and over and over again? Obviously things wear regardless. Now, my experience with this helmet so far for durability has been fantastic. I had this thing since it came out on the market, so it was a while now, and I've worn it a decent amount now. I didn't wear it all the time, and there's certainly people who are wearing it definitely longer than me, and you can see a ton of these helmets in the pro stock world. Especially before the custom one came out, a lot of players were wearing this version of it because it's a super comfortable retail helmet, and it's easy for teams to just keep a retail helmet like this in stock for just like a team stock thing. Now, my concerns for durability on here is because of a friend of mine I mentioned who worked with 3D printing for his career. The thing he specifically mentioned is the discoloration of the actual NestTech itself. Now, it's black, as you can see on here. If you check Sideline Swap and you check pro stock ones and you check used ones of these, the color on here, and you can kind of see it on mine even as well, right at the edges right here, ends up being more see-through. And it looks like almost a white on some of them. Now, according to him, the question on that is, the color is changing on this, is the actual structure of this changing and getting worse and more soft? And because of the sweat kind of breaking down, or the oils on your head, is it breaking down this lattice structure, causing the discoloration? Now, I can't tell by going like this to see if this is actually like getting softer and is becoming less protective because of the NestTech is like breaking down type thing. I can't tell that on mine. Mine isn't worn and used enough on there to see that. Now, he had one of these and noticed that on his, that it was becoming discolored. And that's kind of how our conversation came about. And that's also why he was kind of questioning this one, because he'd want to see if this one would become discolored like this as well. Now, I can't say if it does or not, and I can't say if they're using a different lattice. That would have been kind of helpful and a question I would have asked CCM, but at this point, I'm just getting this video out there. So my concern on this still is the durability on this. Now, I have worn this helmet since I got it. I think in 2023 is my most used helmet. It probably averages twice a week since then, maybe a little bit less than twice a week for like over a year and a bit span, right? So I've used this a decent amount. This back piece is a little bit more crushed than I would like to see, as you can see right there, but the rest of it seems like it's doing a pretty decent job everywhere, and you don't necessarily see that discoloration of the lattice. Now, it does have that kind of less exposed piece, so it is that more NestTech, but like 3D printed stuff there and not the lattice exposed right there. But even on like parts right here where the lattice is exposed directly to my hair, it does look just totally fine. It doesn't really look like it's wearing down all that much in terms of discoloration, but that's a case where I would love to see an NHL helmet or a pro stock helmet of some sort of these to really see how the wear on this is and if this actually breaks down and things like that. If you have constant kind of pressure on this pushing in, I can see the lattice becoming softer over time. It's kind of how foams work as well, but I could see that happening. But for me, I have zero issues with this whatsoever, but it is a point of concern where it makes me kind of like, ugh. But like I said, everything kind of wears down over time, and I've had no poor issues with this, but it's a bit concerning on the stock one, like this one, where you can see that discoloration. So I don't want to say what that's doing to it, but it is something people have noticed, and I wanted to call it out. So I have to bring this up because if I didn't, it would be super disingenuous. Protection on these helmets, I obviously am not testing myself running into anything. I'm not testing a puck hitting this. I'm not simulating a body check to the head, because regardless of how good a helmet would be at preventing concussions or anything like that. I am not risking my head to do so. Obviously, you jump on the ice every time, you are putting an inherent risk on your body, and that is what we expect as hockey players. But as a person who does reviews and stuff, I am not putting my head in directly the way of that, which is the same reason why I won't test pucks off of helmets through a puck machine. Now, for protection on this, I gave you all my pre-warnings and stuff. All I'm going to really talk about is my personal experience with these two helmets and using them. And I will say this helmet, I definitely felt more impacts into my head. Again, this is not scientific. This is not me repeating tests. This is me playing, getting bumped, or hitting the glass and realizing, oh yeah, felt that, that's weird. This is super soft and it's comfortable, but it's super soft, and I really question the impact dispersion on this a little bit. It's very, very soft. This one, on the other hand, when I felt those impacts, again, not replicated, just when I'm playing and stuff, it is so much more dense and so much more solid that it definitely felt like it dampened those a lot more than what that one did. It really does feel like it takes it to a whole nother level. Now, again, this is not scientific. This is not me saying this is more protective than this or more protective than anything else. With my experience, I felt less in this than I did on other helmets I have worn, and this has been one of the better ones. And don't take that as me saying it's more protective. This is just my experience using it. So as you can see by my comments with this helmet, I absolutely love it. And I think it is one of the best helmets in terms of, well, actually it is. It is the best helmet in terms of comfort and fit there is on the market. It'd be kind of interesting to see if CCM ever does something different with a shell, like a different shell than this. This shell with this 3D printed will fit most head shapes, but they did have kind of an oval and rounded shell shape before. So I'd be kind of interested to see what version 2 of this ever is, if it ever is a thing, or if this is just going to be how this goes forward and they may just update the looks of this. But it is fantastic for fit, it is fantastic for comfort, and it is all overall very, very good. Now, the one thing I kind of want to talk about really quickly is the future of NestTech. And I kind of talk about this whenever I talk about CCM stuff and NestTech. And it is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's now in goalie helmets. So the Axis XF goalie helmet has NestTech in it. It's more or less like this one with the SuperTax X, where it's not custom to your head. It's just obviously stock retail. I tried it on and I wasn't totally thrilled with some of the tests I tried on it. So I didn't want to dive in and purchase that to see what the results were. I will also want to see some NHL goalies wear that before I jumped in and put it on my head. This is a ProTech Sport. It's a very, very well-made mask, and they used to do NHL, well, one guy, his name's Michael, used to make NHL masks for pros. This mask is fantastic. It's custom made to my head. It's really good. And I'm probably going to try to go down the route of getting a custom CCM Axis XF mask with that whole NestTech 3D printed in for goalie mask, to try that one out as well. I've loved this one so much. It's so comfortable. I'm thinking of going the goalie route too. And honestly, I think that's extremely interesting of what they're doing with that. I would love to see it come to other gear too. And CCM's kind of utilizing it a bit in their player stuff a lot more than their goalie stuff. And I love the tech. I think it has a lot of usage and you can do a lot of awesome things with it if you're willing to. Huge fan of it. Excited to see it in the goalie line of things. Hopefully I'll do the goalie part of this in the future. We'll see kind of what happens with that. For the time being, this helmet has been fantastic. I totally recommend it. It's ridiculously expensive, but it's fantastic. So it's the best helmet I've ever worn, and I have a hard time going to any other helmets compared to this. It's that good. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Remember to like this video, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. If this video was helpful and you're happy it came out and you want to see more of it, like if you want to see me review the goalie one, please reach out to CCM on social media and stuff like that. Hopefully I can do more stuff like this in the future and that this video is helpful. So please let CCM know that my content like this, while it might take longer to come out, actually very helpful to people and not just like marketing stuff, but actually helping people make purchasing decisions. Greatly, greatly appreciate on my end. Like I said, hopefully I can keep doing stuff like this. If you want to support the channel and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, check out the link in the description to Just Hockey. Even if you're in Canada or US, they have pretty awesome free shipping stuff to both countries. Check them out in the description. Click that link, make a purchase through them. I get a kickback. Also supports them, also shows them that my content is helpful, and hopefully I can make more content with them going forward and making more reviews like this. Otherwise, check out Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. Everything goes through those links, always comes back into the channel so I can make more content and doing more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.